You know, Sam Altman from OpenAI, he recently tossed out this idea, didn't he? That AI could be at least as big as the internet, maybe bigger.
Yeah,
Just, I mean, let that sink in for a moment. It's a pretty staggering thought.
it really is. And it makes you think, okay, what's actually shaping all this?
Exactly. And that's precisely what we're diving deep into today.
We're looking at a pretty key moment, actually. That testimony, Altman plus leaders from Microsoft, AMD, Coreweave.
Before the Senate committee, right?
Oh,
Commerce, Science, Transportation, May 8th.
that's the one. It really highlighted the states involved here, big time.
Yeah, and our mission today, it's pretty focused. We want to cut through the noise, the headlines, and really understand the core issues from that hearing.
What were they actually saying?
Right, like the competition with China, where U.S. innovation is heading, and the big question, what's a government's role supposed to be? We want to get a clear picture for you.
And to do that, we've gathered a few different angles. We've got news reports, AP News, Washington
Just
Post.
solid reporting.
Definitely. And we also have transcripts, YouTube videos from Face the Nation,
Yeah.
CBS News, so we get the actual back and forth.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Right off the bat, it seems like everyone there, all these tech leaders, they were totally on the same page about how huge AI is, globally speaking.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It wasn't just, hype. There was this real sense that AI isn't just some new tech trend.
No.
It's fundamental. It's set to change, well, everything. Global business, culture, even geopolitics.
Yeah.
AP News really flagged that transformative potential.
And this huge wave, it's happening while there's this furious race, as AP News put it.
Mhm.
It's not just about who has the coolest algorithm. It's about, global leadership. You've got OpenAI, Alphabet, Meta.
The U.S. players.
Yeah, going head to head, not just with each other, but with really sophisticated competitors emerging from China now.
And that geopolitical angle is fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Face the Nation transcript showed this real pride from U.S. senators.
In the U.S. approach.
Yeah, in the open approach here, contrasting it with China's more, closed system, they see that openness as a kind of strategic edge.
But there's nervousness, too, right? I mean, Face the Nation also mentioned this worry about falling behind China. They even brought up Huawei.
Oof, yeah. That's a potent comparison.
So what's the lesson there? From Huawei, I mean, for AI policy now.
Well, I think Huawei is just a stark reminder, isn't it? How fast a competitor can rise and the impact that has on national security, the economy.
Right.
It really points to needing, proactive strategies, both for boosting our own innovation and being smart about things like export controls. Got to stay ahead.
Okay, so shifting gears to what these guys actually asked for. Infrastructure seemed like priority number one.
Definitely. Altman especially, he really hammered home the need for serious investment in the basics. The foundation,
Foundations, like.
data centers,
Yeah.
and the massive amounts of energy AI just, eats up. His visit out to that Project Stargate site in Texas.
Abilene, right. AP and CBS covered that.
Yeah, that really put a kind of a physical marker on that need. Like, this is what we need to build.
And the numbers involved are just, wow. Face the Nation mentioned, what, $500 billion just for Stargate?
Yeah, it's eye-watering. Gives you a real sense of the sheer scale of investment we're talking about.
Which leads straight into the energy problem, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. AP noted this unified call from all of them, basically saying, hey, streamline the policies so we can actually build these things and get funding.
And Senator Moreno, according to AP, he kind of poked at that, questioning if current energy policies might actually be, getting in the way of building AI infrastructure.
It's a tricky balance, right?
Yeah.
National priorities clashing, maybe?
Seems like it.
And those energy projections, they really hammer it home. AP, Face the Nation, both mentioning estimates that data centers could eat up, maybe 12% of all U.S. electricity by 2028?
12%, that's huge.
It is. It raises that fundamental question. How do you power all this sustainably, without wrecking environmental goals?
Where does the power come from? I mean, Face the Nation mentioned Microsoft looking into fusion energy. That agreement in Washington State.
Yeah, with fusion energy in Everett, they're definitely exploring some pretty cutting-edge long-term solutions. They have to.
So beyond the physical stuff, the pipes and wires, they also talked about, the environment for innovation itself.
Absolutely. Lisa Su from AMD, we heard this on Face the Nation and CBS, she stressed keeping ecosystems open, that openness being key to U.S. leadership.
Altman kind of echoed that, didn't he? Talking about the magic of this country for fostering breakthroughs, that idea of open collaboration.
Yeah, that historical strength. And tied right into that is the need for strong domestic supply chain.
Chips, mainly.
Yeah, semiconductors, related tech,
Yeah.
the absolute backbone, Lisa Su, Brad Smith from Microsoft.
Sure.
They both hit that point hard on Face the Nation and CBS. You can't lead in AI without secure hardware.
And it's not just the hardware, it's the people, too.
Yeah. Crucial point. Unanimous agreement on that. Again, across Face the Nation, CBS. Need to invest in talent. Make sure the U.S. is the place to study and work in AI.
Okay, now here's something I found interesting. Regulation.
Yeah.
The Washington Post noted this shift, right? Tech used to kind of fight regulation.
Yeah, traditionally very resistant, but now a bit different, maybe more open to it, or at least asking for specific kinds of oversight for AI.
Altman himself, he was calling for light-touch federal rules. That came up on Face the Nation and CBS.
And warning against a patchwork from different states, said it would just stifle things, make it too complex.
He even floated that idea of a regulatory sandbox, like the early internet. Face the Nation mentioned that.
Yeah, a controlled space to test things out under specific rules before, unleashing it everywhere.
And maybe even a long learning period, like 10 years. Or federal rules overriding state ones. That was in the Face the Nation transcript, too.
Right. It signals this real desire for consistency, a predictable national landscape.
What about getting U.S. tech out into the world? Market access, export controls.
Also a big topic. Lisa Su, Brad Smith again on Face the Nation, CBS. They stressed fair access to global markets, but also the need for sensible export controls.
That's the meaning.
Meaning balancing national security, obviously, but not so tight that they choke off global adoption of U.S. tech. Find that sweet spot.
Face the Nation mentioned a specific worry about, like, quantitative caps hindering adoption.
Yeah, the industry seems worried that blunt restrictions could backfire, making it harder for their tech to spread beneficially. They want targeted controls.
Got it. And finally, public-private partnerships kept coming up.
Right. Soon Smith highlighted those on Face the Nation and CBS. Vital for both R&D and for, training the workforce needed for all this.
So, okay, you've got the high stakes, the race with China, all these needs, infrastructure, energy, talent, regulation. How do we actually see the U.S. position right now? Are we winning, losing?
While Altman on Face the Nation, he seemed to think U.S. models are currently the best. But he cautioned, the lead isn't huge. It's still very much a race.
Lisa Su had a slightly different take, also on Face the Nation.
A bit more nuanced, yeah. She said, okay, U.S. is ahead in chips, which is critical.
For sure.
But China's catching up fast. And importantly, she pointed out, there isn't just one way to get good AI. It's not all about having the absolute bleeding-edge chip.
Interesting. And Brad Smith?
He basically agreed it's a tight race on Face the Nation. U.S. has a lead now, but it's likely to stay close. And for him, the real key factor, global adoption. Who gets their tech used around the world?
Okay, let's touch on some of the more specific points that came up. Senator Duckworth's criticism, AP reported on that.
Yeah, she went after past cuts to federal research funding under Trump and also pointing at Musk, framing those as potentially hurting U.S. competitiveness down the road.
And Face the Nation brought up stablecoins. How do they connect to AI?
Yeah, it's about the potential future integration. Stablecoins are those cryptocurrencies pegged to regular money. The discussion was about how a solid stablecoin system might interact with or support the future AI economy. Shows ripple effects.
Rippling into our social lives, too, apparently. Face the Nation mentioned concerns about people relying on AI for, like, life advice.
The broader societal impact. How AI might change relationships, guidance.
And the age-old question of getting paid. Content creators, journalists, ensuring they get compensated when AI uses their work. That came up on Face the Nation, too.
Yeah, a really tricky issue. How do you value that input in the training process? Big debate there.
And the U.S. leading in both open source and closed AI models. That was discussed.
Right, the strategic value of playing in both spaces. And Face the Nation even mentioned OpenAI planning to release a major open source model itself. That could be significant.
But then there's the flip side. Chinese open source models like DeepSeek may be gaining traction, especially in developing countries. Face the Nation flagged that.
Exactly, a potential challenge. And Microsoft apparently even had data concerns about the DeepSeek app specifically. Shows how global and messy this all is.
Messy and maybe resource intensive, the environmental impact. Energy, water use by data centers. Face the Nation touched on that.
Yeah, definitely a concern raised, the need to actually study that impact thoroughly. Though Microsoft did talk about their efforts, water replenishment, closed-loop cooling. trying to mitigate it.
And looking further out, what about jobs? The potential for displacement, did that come up?
It did on Face the
Mm.
Nation.
Yeah.
You need to prepare, basically. Acknowledge that AI will likely cause social disruption and figure out how to manage it.
And underlying all of this, just the basic need for good internet access. Fast, affordable. Face the Nation highlighted that too.
Yep. Can't realize AI's potential if people can't access it easily. It's foundational.
Okay, so wrapping this deep dive up, what are the absolute core takeaways for you listening right now?
Well, first, there's this undeniable sense of urgency, right? The U.S. needs to stay ahead in AI. It's about the economy, sure, but also national security, global influence.
Right, it feels critical. And our discussion really highlighted those key ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
Infrastructure, energy, talent, and smart regulation. Getting those right seems paramount.
Absolutely. And that constant backdrop, the competition with China, it's real, it's intense. The U.S. might have leads now, but they're not guaranteed. It needs sustained effort.
And the message from the tech leaders themselves was pretty clear, wasn't it? Collaboration. Government and industry have to work together.
Yeah, they basically said that partnership is essential if the U.S. is going to, well, win this thing. That was the framing.
So here's something for you to chew on as we finish up. With AI moving so incredibly fast and all these different viewpoints we've heard today, what do you think is the single most critical factor for ensuring AI develops positively?
And maybe, what's the role for everyone involved? Government, the tech companies, academics, individuals like you.
Yeah, lots to think about. We definitely encourage you to check out the sources we mentioned, keep exploring, and, form your own informed opinions on all this.